Cognates and Language Structure for Cambridge C2. Welcome to Lingua Explorer, Episode 14. My identity hasn't changed. I'm Dr. Stephen Martz, a linguist working in the systemic functional tradition. Because some of you are new, and because this channel moves between English and Spanish, let me place myself clearly in 1 minute. I was born in Los Angeles to a London father and a Barcelona mother, and grew up between those language worlds. I moved to Britain at the age of 10 and was schooled there, which explains why you're hearing a British accent rather than an American one. So when you hear Spanish in one episode and English in another, that isn't switching for effect. It's simply how my working life developed. This channel has a very specific bilingual aim: to show advanced Spanish speakers how close they already are to high-level English, especially in scientific and analytical vocabulary once they reach this stage. At that level, large parts of English can be read almost like a Romance language, through shared roots and structures. You'll notice a consistent pattern here. Narrative and emotional content is often in Spanish, while linguistic and structural analysis is usually in English. That isn't arbitrary. It reflects how my own academic and professional work developed, and it gives each language a clear function on the channel. The same works in the other direction as well. English speakers can use the Spanish segments for immersion and structural comparison. So the channel is bidirectional. Whichever language is your stronger one, you can use it as a bridge into the other. If you've seen my publications or my book, you may have noticed a middle initial, the M, and in the interest of transparency rather than mystery, it stands for Miguel. Nothing secret, just family naming. On this channel, we look at language structurally, how meaning is built, not just how phrases are taught. And today's episode is a good example of that approach. Let me give you the structure first, so you know exactly where we're going. Today has 3 parts. Part 1. We'll look at etymons and cognates, how Spanish and English technical and analytical vocabulary overlap far more than most advanced learners realize, using material drawn from the narrative episode linked below. Part 2. We move into rhetorical structure, Tricolon, Climax, and Anticlimax, some of which you can already see behind me. And we look at how these effects are built structurally, not just stylistically. Part 3. We turn the whole analysis into a Cambridge C1/C2 style task, so you can actively apply what we've observed. Each part has supporting material. In the description, you'll find a PDF for each of the 3 parts. For Part 1, you'll also find the link to the narrative episode we're analyzing. All the examples I'm about to use are taken from the narrative episode Titanic 2026, Cuenta Atrás, Countdown. Cuenta Atrás simply means countdown in English, and both forms appear in the title. We'll group the terms structurally. First, scientific and technical vocabulary, then epistemic and linguistic terms, and finally a small narrative set, so you can see how cognate stability varies by domain. Let's begin with 2 small technical terms, and I'll define them briefly so we're aligned. An etymon is the historical source form of a word, where it originally comes from. A cognate is a word in another language that comes from the same root and still shows a similar form and meaning, essentially a lexical relative. If that still feels abstract, the examples will make it concrete. Think of the etymon as the grandfather and the cognates as the different branches of the family tree across languages. You'll see the family resemblance immediately in the examples. For each example, we'll follow a fixed pattern: Spanish form, English cognate, shared root, meaning stability or shift, and usage domain. So you're not memorizing, you're mapping. If you prefer visual support, the Part 1 PDF in the description contains the same etymons, cognates, and classifications in written form, so you can read along while we go through them. We'll now go through the items category by category, and just to set expectations clearly, this is a condensed working selection, not the exhaustive list. The full extended set is in the Part 1 PDF, second link below the video. This segment is designed so you can map the system efficiently while watching, without turning this into a 2-hour lecture. All vocabulary here comes from the narrative analysis episode, episode 13.2, Titanic 2026, Cuenta atrás/countdown, first link below, the Linguistic Action episode featuring Ronny Caruso. If you haven't watched that yet, it strengthens what you're seeing here. Quick learning tip before we start. Form a mental image for each word as we go. Meaning stabilizes when it attaches to a prototype image. Same mechanism that lets you instantly recognize an apple without defining it. We're using that system, concept plus image. If you're a visual learner, split your screen now. Video on one side, Part 1 PDF, second link, on the other, and read along while listening. It genuinely helps retention. Category 1: Scientific and Technical Cognates. Structure, estructura. Latin etymon, structura, building, arrangement. Form is nearly identical across Spanish and English, and meaning is stable. If something has structure, it holds. Without structure, it collapses, bridges, arguments, and sentences included. Same rule, different domains. Some academic theories too, but will stay diplomatic. Instruments, instrumentos. Latin etymon, instrumentum, tool, device. Here's where system recognition begins to pay off. We share the same lexical base, instrument. What changes is the plural marking. English, instrument plus s. Spanish, instrumento to instrumentos. That ending is what linguists call a morpheme, the smallest recurring unit in the language system that carries meaning or grammatical function. Two core types, stated cleanly. Grammatical morphemes signal grammar information such as number, tense, agreement. Derivational morphemes build new lexical items. They create new words. Here, the plural marker is grammatical. It changes number, not lexical meaning. Same concept, different quantity. If that felt slightly heavy, good. Heavy things tend to hold. We only need to explain the pattern once, then we reuse it. Engineers, ingenieros. Latin etymon, ingenium, talent, design capacity. Same base logic, same plural morpheme pattern. Once you see this, vocabulary stops being a list and becomes a system, much cheaper cognitively. Console, consola. Latin etymon, consolari, to support, strengthen. Originally about support and stabilization, today the word names a control interface, and yes, gaming consoles absolutely count. If you play Call of Duty or Fortnite, You are literally holding a Latin root technical term in your hands. No escape. You're doing historical linguistics between matches. This is what I like about technical vocabulary. It sneaks education into entertainment without asking permission. Digital, digital. From Latin digitus, finger. Counting on fingers to computation to binary systems. Same lexical lineage, expanded domain. Element, elemento. Latin elementum, basic component, first principle. An element is not decoration, it's load-bearing. Concrete anchor. Look at Ronny Caruso in episode 13.2, first link below. Even professional skaters like Ronny Caruso wear Element hoodies. It's a real skater brand, functional identity, not symbolic fashion. Check it in the episode. It's not accidental. More items exist in this category. Full list in the Part 1 PDF, second link below. Split screen works very well here. Quick calibration. Tell me in the comments whether this level is right for you. C1/C2 depth. Too abstract, too easy, or exactly right. I use that feedback to tune the next episodes. End of segment. Category 2, Linguistic and Rhetorical Terms. Now we move from technical vocabulary to analytical vocabulary, the words used when meaning itself becomes the object of analysis. Interpretation, interpretación. Latin, interpretari, to explain, make meaning clear. Interpretation is structured meaning construction, not guessing, not opinion, constrained explanation. Intensification, intensificación. Latin, intensus, stretched, tightened. To intensify is to increase semantic force density. In rhetoric, intensification converts repetition into escalation, and escalation into climax, which we map structurally in the next part. Confirmation, confirmación. Latin, confirmare, to make firm. Confirmation is evidential strengthening under testing, not agreement, not applause, resistance under pressure. Climax, climax. Anticlimax, anticlimax. Greek, climax, ladder. A climax is structured ascent, stepwise escalation. No steps, no climax, only noise, which describes quite a lot of online argumentation. Responsibility, responsabilidad. Latin, respondere, to answer. Responsibility is answerability for action. Now a high-yield word formation pattern. English abstract nouns often end in ity. Spanish equivalents often end in idad/edad. Responsibility, arrow, responsabilidad. Adaptability, arrow, adaptabilidad. Ability, habilidad. That suffix is a derivational morpheme, a lexical word-building unit. It creates new vocabulary items. This is productive morphology, and it saves you a lot of memorization time. Full pattern set again. Part 1, PDF, second link below, split screen recommended. Category 3, Narrative and Emotional Cognates. Small set, high impact. Catastrophic, catastrophico. From Greek via Latin, originally structural reversal, not just disaster, a turning point in system state. Panic, panico. Greek, pan, sudden spreading fear response, Systems fail quietly. Humans panic loudly. That completes the condensed cognate and etymon selection for this part. Reminder, this is the condensed version. The exhaustive list is in the Part 1 PDF, second link below. All examples come from episode 13.2, Titanic 2026, Cuenta Atrás/Countdown, first link, the Ronny Caruso Linguistic Action episode. Visual learners, split screen with the PDF and read along. It significantly improves retention. Stay with me. Next we move into rhetorical devices, Tricolon, Climax, Anticlimax, and how structure creates effect. If this kind of bilingual C1/C2 structural analysis is your space, like the video, leave constructive comments, ask questions, and tell me what you want more or less of. More structure, more narrative links, more English-Spanish contrasts. That input directly shapes upcoming. Part 2. Stylistic Devices. I think some of you might be wondering what this is behind me. And now the time has come to talk about stylistic devices, part 2. Here we go. What you see behind me will make sense in a few seconds. Let's start with a line from history. We say it out loud. Veni, vidi, vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. Caesar's line. Short, sharp, memorable. Not because it is long, but because it is built well. You may have heard the phrase, all good things come in three. Caesar's line is a perfect example of that pattern. Let's explain what is happening inside it. At the base level, we have enumeration, three actions listed in order: came, saw, conquered. More precisely, we have a tricolon, a three-part rhetorical structure with equal weight. We also have parallelism, the same grammatical shape repeated three times. And we have climax, rising force. Arrival is weaker than perception. Perception is weaker than conquest. Stepwise escalation. We even get a sound pattern. Veni, vidi, vici. Same initial sound, alliteration, which helps memory. So already here, several stylistic devices work together to make a line stay alive across centuries. Now let's transfer that structure to the narrative episode, the cinematic one. First link below the video, episode 13.2, Titanic 2026, Cuenta Atrás, Countdown. In that story, Diego shows the professor a three-part structure on his phone. I'll show it briefly on screen. And the three-part pattern there maps to life, terminal illness, death. Again, a three-step structure. Again, escalating consequence. Again, a tricolon with climax, but now existential rather than military. And here we repeat the pattern deliberately. All good things come in three. All bad things come in three. Same structure, opposite value. Keep that in mind. We'll name it properly in a moment. What matters first is that you see the structural echo between the historical line and the narrative clue. Different domains, same rhetorical skeleton. This is why stylistic structure is not decoration. It guides interpretation and strengthens inference. Now let's name what we just did when we said, all good things come in three, all bad things come in three. That is a true antithesis. Same sentence structure, opposite semantic poles. Good versus bad, balanced contrast. You know the same pattern from Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Parallel structure plus semantic opposition, that is antithesis, which means you have already used and understood an antithesis before we even labeled it. Now we've made it explicit. Two more core semantic devices you should always distinguish. A metaphor states identity. You are my sunshine. A simile states similarity using like or as. You are like my sunshine. Metaphor is identity mapping. Simile is comparison mapping. Same transfer of meaning, different grammatical signal. Parallel structure, tricolon, climax, antithesis, these are not ornaments. They exist to make speech stronger, more memorable, and more likely to stay with you. If you want to go deeper, we can also examine how the same line functions at ideational, interpersonal, and textual levels. That is, the systemic functional linguistics layer. If you want that SFL introduction, tell me in the comments and we can build it as a separate segment. If you are a visual learner, open the Part 2 PDF, second link below, Stylistic Devices, which contains a meta-functionally classified list of 46 rhetorical devices. And if you want to see these structures operating inside a full cinematic narrative, watch the episode, first link below, featuring Ronny Caruso and the countdown scenario. The story works on its own. The explanation lets you see why it works. Part 3, CPE/C2, Writing Task. Now we move to Part 3 and we change mode. We've talked a lot about spoken language, rhetorical devices, and structure in speech, but language also exists in the written mode. So we now move from C1 speaking focus to C2 writing. In this last part, I want to briefly address my Spanish-speaking audience and all other non-native speakers of English in particular. If you're aiming for the highest Cambridge level, C2 proficiency, also known as CPE, this part is for you. I'll give you only the essentials here. All detailed instructions and the full task are in the PDF below titled Cambridge C2 Writing Task at Lingua Explorer. The C2 writing paper gives you 1 hour and 30 minutes total for 2 tasks. That's 90 minutes. Good time management is crucial. Part 1 is the compulsory essay task. You receive 2 short texts presenting different positions on the same issue. Your job is to write a formal essay summarizing and evaluating the key points from both texts and adding your own reasoned perspective, using your own words as far as possible. Required length is 240 to 280 words. This limit is handled quite strictly. Write a real essay. Clear paragraphs, formal register, connected reasoning. No bullet points, no notes style. And a small advantage for my Spanish-speaking viewers, formal English essays use a lot of Romance root vocabulary, so you already have a lexical head start there. From my experience as a Cambridge examiner, I strongly recommend planning about 45 minutes for this first task, 50 at the absolute maximum if you really need it. Every extra minute you spend here is time you lose for the second writing task, which is designed for roughly the same working time. Scripts often suffer when the second task is rushed, so keep that 45-minute target in mind. We will look at part 2 of the C2 writing paper in a future video. If you decide to do this task, you're welcome to post your answer in the comments. If there's enough interest, I may review a selection and show a model response. All full instructions and materials are in the PDF below. I'll leave you with that for today. I'm going to grab a Coke Zero. You've earned a break too. If this has helped you, leave a like and activate the bell. Thanks for staying with me, and see you in the next one.
Yes. Bombs deactivated, ship still floating, professor officially in Coke Zero recovery mode, order restored. I don't usually trade skate time for linguistics, but when patterns decide outcomes, I listen. Same rule in competition. 2 X Games titles back to back. I'm going for number 3. No clean word for that in skating. Football people would call it a hat trick. I'll just call it unfinished business. If you made it through the full episode, respect. That's elite tier attention span. Now I need air, speed, and a clean line. And yeah, I'm not planning to let Naija take that spot. See you at the top or mid-ramp where commitment actually counts. And this is not the Ronny outro. This is only the beginning at the end, not of the end. Stick around.